Oh hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, hi, hello, make sure you click that subscribe button so you stick around for more videos. So today we're here to discuss one of my most favourite topics, which is horror movies. Now, like any traditional good decent goth, I love horror movies. They are always my go-to genre. They make me feel all warm and cozy inside, and what better than to talk about my favourite horror movies now we're getting closer to Halloween. Now I want to thank the fantastic Mooseham,
hey guys, it's Moose,
for creating this horror movie tag. 13 questions of which I will answer, and hopefully you'll learn something about the horror movies that I like, and hopefully there's a few in there that you haven't heard of before. The first horror movie I ever watched. So the first horror movie I remember watching was when I was quite young, probably about 7 or 8. And it was round at my grand's house, and we watched Night of the Living Dead.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Written and directed by George Romero, and that film had a profound effect on me. I remember seeing zombies for the first time and thinking that they were really cool, also terrifying, but really cool. And I think watching that film gave me my love of horror movies, and when I was a bit older I really got into zombies, and I have a lot of zombie DVDs. Nowhere near as many as I used to, because I have sold quite a few of them, but I still love zombies. I've still got quite a lot of zombie films, but I still think the zombie genre is one of my favourites, definitely. What's the movie that made you first fall in love with the horror genre? Well, I guess that's kind of the same as my first horror movie, really. Yeah, I think Night of the Living Dead is probably the one that made me fall in love with horror altogether. But then I guess something like the old Universal monster movies, that probably helped as well. They're obviously the coolest looking movies out there.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And they're something that you can watch time and time again without getting bored of them. What's my favourite horror subgenre? Tough question to answer because I like to dip into all sorts of different horror, but what I really like, and I guess it's not really a subgenre as such, but it's just kind of a classic horror film. So for me, rather than subgenres, I would just say that it's a really good, well done classic horror film. Something a bit like Drag Me to Hell, that's a very well done one. A horror movie that scared you so much that you couldn't sleep. Now I remember when I was younger, and it's not a horror movie technically, I guess it's sci-fi, well it is sci-fi, was Terminator. Watching that and seeing, might have been Terminator 2 actually, and finding Arnie quite scary in that. I think it's quite a menacing film, and I think that's what scared me. I also remember the first time I watched 28 Days Later. I was so excited to see that film. I wasn't old enough at the time to go and see it in the cinema. Oh no, I was old enough at the time to go and see it in the cinema, but I didn't really know about it until after it had come out. And then I went and rented it from Blockbuster and watched it with my then boyfriend at the time, and literally watched it finished and then watched it straight after again because it was so amazing. But I remember in the middle of the night me being kind of half awake because I found the zombies, well they're not technically zombies, infected people, quite scary in that, and my ex at the time waking up and pretending to be one of those zombies. So that was really nice of him, thanks for that. What horror movies do you think are overrated? I'm not a fan of anything that's overly gory for the sake of just being overly gory. I think sometimes lots of gore is great, like for example a film like Carrie, which has got a ton of blood in it, is fantastic. Nightmare on Elm Street, I think some of those things are used to great effect, but if it's just for the sake of, you know, the kind of over-the-top tortury films, that's not really something that I'm into. Also, I don't tend to go for a lot of supernatural films either. I find them a little bit too... sometimes a little bit too scary, and I think when I was younger I was always told to not mess around with the devil and no Ouija boards, that kind of thing, so I think that really plays on my mind, and yeah, not really big into the supernatural horror films. Any horror films that you think are underrated? So I've already mentioned it, but Drag Me to Hell is an amazing horror film. Also The Hole, I think, is an amazing horror film. I haven't seen it in quite a number of years, but I remember that having quite a profound effect on me when I was growing up. I think the film Dead Man's Shoes is also a very good horror film, even though it's kind of more of a thriller. It does have horror elements, and I think that one's a really good one to watch. If you're not really into horror but you want to watch something that's a little bit scary, then I would definitely go for Dead Man's Shoes. Who is your favourite movie monster? Now, I think horror movie monsters come in all different shapes and sizes, so you've got everything from kind of your serial killer monsters like Jason, Freddy, Mike Myers, not that one but this one. I think for me though it has to be Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein. Those two are so iconic. For me though, I think it has to be Frankenstein's monster and The Bride of Frankenstein. Both of those characters are iconic and amazing, and just everyone can recognise them as soon as they see them, so yeah, definitely those two. Favourite scene or set piece from a movie? Good question. I think possibly, and I don't know whether you would count this as a horror film, but maybe Little Shop of Horrors. I think the way that they filmed just the whole of that film, and the fact that it feels like you are in the theatre watching something that's on stage but you're also enjoying a film, just looks incredible, and it definitely has its horror elements as well. The remake of The Little Shop of Horrors, not the original Jack Nicholson one.
What the hell is... Sir?
If you had to stay in a horror movie mansion or location, where would you choose and why? Well, the first one that springs to mind is obviously the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. Now, I only recently watched The Shining for the first time the whole way through, I know, about 2 years ago now, so I'd never actually seen The Shining the whole way through. I'd seen kind of half of it, but it was always on really late at night and I never managed to make my way through it without falling asleep, so I made a concerted effort to sit down and watch it a couple of years ago now, and yeah, that would I'd probably want to stay there. And you can stay there because it's a real hotel, so yeah, maybe one day.
Forever and ever and ever.
But an honourable mention I think would probably be the Munsters house. I'd like to stay there, please. In fact, I'd actually like to move in there, so if somebody can arrange that, that'd be lovely. Thank you. Are there any horror movies that you refuse to watch? Now, there are some things that I've never gotten into, so things like Cannibal Holocaust I've never watched. I Spit on Your Grave. Any of those ones that were kind of the video nasties that got banned, I've never really bothered with those. I kind of feel like they're a lot of hype for not much decent content, so I've never bothered with any of those. But if you've watched them and you think they're good, then yeah, pop me a comment below. I'd like to hear why you like them and if I should bother with them. But other than that, there is one film that I have never watched, and I don't know if I will ever sit down to watch it all the way through, and I know it's very tame now, but that's The Exorcist. I've never watched it. I've tried to watch it once and it made me feel really, really ill, and that was in the first 20 minutes of the film. And there's just something about that film that I find so creepy that I just can't do it. Have you got any horror crushes? Not a film, well, technically it was first a film, but for the series, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Seth Green, it would have to be Matthew Lillard from Scream 1. Don't know why, they're just both very cute and I want to squeeze their faces. Hello?
Oh, Stu. What's your motive? Billy's got one. The police are on their way. What are you gonna tell them?
Peer pressure. I'm far too sensitive.
I'm gonna rip you up, you bitch! Just like your fucking mother!
You gotta find me first, you pansy-ass mama's boy!
Fuck! Fucking hit me with the phone, dick!
Best horror movie to watch on Halloween. Halloween. The original Halloween is an amazing horror film. I think some people don't rate it. I think it's just amazing, such a good horror film.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, look.
Look where?
Behind the bush.
I don't see anything.
The guy who drove by so fast, that one you yelled at.
Oh, subtle, isn't he?
I think it also depends on what you're trying to go for on the evening. If you're trying to get yourself really scared, I would go for maybe the original Ring, or Ringu as it's called. Not Pingu, but Ringu. That one's pretty terrifying. Or if you're trying to have a family-friendly evening, then I would suggest Addams Family 2, Addams Family Values.
Here at Camp Chippewa, America's foremost facility for privileged young adults.
And we're all here to learn, to grow, and to just plain have fun!
Because that's what being privileged is all about!
All really different films from each other, so if you want a decent variety, then go for that. If you want something a bit more teen ridiculousness, then you could try and do all of the Final Destination films. And if you do that, let me know how you get on. I've yet to do the whole marathon, but maybe one day I'll give it a go. And finally, what is your guilty pleasure horror movie? Now, I don't believe in guilty pleasures because I think everything that you like is valid and you should never be ashamed about anything that you like. You do you. But having said that, probably the schlockiest stuff that I've ever watched is all of the Friday the 13th films. An ex-boyfriend of mine from about 10 years ago, we managed to track down all of the Friday 13th films in all their majestic, terrible glory and decided to watch all of them. And there's a few in there that are decent. I would say possibly 1 and 2, and then they just get ridiculous from there. Obviously, Freddy vs. Jason is a film that I will return to now and then to remind myself that horror doesn't always have to be so serious. It can sometimes be a bit of a crazy ride. So there we have it, that's 13 questions from the horror movie tag written by Mooseham. So please go and check out Moose. She is a delight and a lovely human being, so yeah, definitely go and check out her channel as well. In regards to tagging people in, if you're watching this video and you've got a channel, then please feel free to also do this tag as well. I would love to see what you come up with, and I'd love to learn about some different horror films as well. If you've got any suggestions of things that I should watch over Halloween, or any horror films that you think I've missed in that list, and definitely let me know what your favourite horror film is in the comment box below. I'd love to know. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell notification icon so you get notified every time I upload videos. I also have a podcast called Macabre London. You can find the episodes on my channel, so please take a look at that as well. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me to make more videos, then please head to my Patreon page. Everything will be in the description below. Thanks again for watching and for joining me for this tag, and I will see you guys next time. Ta-ta!